Hey friends, it's Mari. I'm back today with another card project for Honeybee Stamps. I'm going to be creating this really pretty fall themed card using the Hello Fall stamp and honey cut set. And I really love how this turned out. It was a lot of fun to make. And this is a brand new set from the Autumn Afternoon release. And so here I'm just showing you the name of the stamp there, Hello Fall. And this is a large stamp set, and it is also a layering set, which is really fun. And I am going to use this stamp set to do some layering here today for my project. Now, this honey cut is amazing. It actually shows you here, I'm just showing you how there's actually a die for every one of those pieces, including like if you wanted to die cut the solid without the stem on the leaf, you can do that. There's actually 2 dies for each one of the leaves. So here you can see, I'm just going to go ahead and place the stamps that I want to use from the set. I'm not going to use all of them, but most of them. And I'm going to just place them on my Nina cardstock here. This is some Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock in my Misty. And I'm going to use these stamps in my repositionable tool here to make sure that I get just a really nice solid image when I'm stamping these images out here. So I'm going to get those all placed, and now I'm going to start stamping them out. Now I wanted to use just some really kind of almost jewel tone colors here today to stamp out my images. And here you can just see I'm using a really pretty teal color, and I'm not going to show you stamping every one of the leaves here, but I will show you stamping some of them, and I am going to actually have some of these leaves left over when I die cut them at the end. I won't use them all on this project today, but I just wanted to make sure that I had stamped and die cut enough for my card, and then I'll just save my extras for another project. So you can just see here how beautifully these stamps stamp with this solid image, and they're just gorgeous. Now I am going to layer the details on these stamps with some embossing powder, and so I'm going to just take the detailed stamp that's a companion with each one of these different leaves, and I'm going to stamp that detail out with some embossing ink. So you can just see I took my anti-static powder tool there and treated the inked up area there with that, so that the embossing powder only sticks to the embossing ink. I did let that dry for a few minutes before I stamped and embossed. I let that leaf ink, that solid color, dry a bit so that the embossing powder didn't stick there. Heated that up, melted the embossing powder in gold, and here you can see all of these lovely little leaves that I have to create my card. Now I did use some of my here, I'm just going to show you up close the navy one. It's so pretty. I love these. Actually, I'm going to show you a few just because I think they're so stunning. I love how that gold turned out as a layer over top of these solid color stamps. You can just see the detail that adds to these beautiful little leaf embellishments. Now I took some of my standard honey cut stash dies here. I love these. This is the A2 double stitch rectangle die that I showed you there, and here I'm just showing you I cut it from the Great Outdoors 6x6 paper pad, and also I cut the wood grain from that same paper pad using the scallop stitched honey cut. Now these honey cuts that I'm using here to cut out these rectangles, like I said, these are just really good dies to have in your stash, and I use these over and over and over again to create card fronts, and they're layerable. You know, here you can see I'm going to layer the scallop over top of the non-scalloped one, and how pretty that's going to look. I love the color combination of that really pretty aqua plaid. Now I'm going to take a circle punch. This is a 1 3/4 inch circle punch from my stash, and I'm going to just cut away a corner of that rectangle, and that's going to be a little spotlight area for my leaves. Now I'm going to take some foam squares, and I'm going to add those to this piece of pattern paper, and I am going to go ahead and add this to my card front here and give it a little bit of dimension in that way using that foam adhesive. I also added a little bit of twine for a little bit of extra texture there as well. And now I'm just going to take that release paper off and go ahead and stick this down to that really gorgeous diagonal plaid pattern paper from the Great Outdoors paper pad. And this is just going to be such a pretty combination of that really neutral wood grain with that really gorgeous aqua plaid. And then the twine that I added is just a really soft kind of variegated mint and white. And it's a really fine twine. And I just tied it in a little bow there just to add just a little bit of soft texture to my card front. Now this little focus area here, the little circle area, is just going to provide, like I said, a place for my leaves. And I wanted to add dimension to this whole card front again with a little bit of foam adhesive. And I'm going to add that all down to my card base, which is just a really pretty teal colored card base. I just thought that really makes the card front pop. So next step is going to be to start adding my leaves to that spotlight area. So I'm going to take my Honeybee Stamps liquid glue tube and I'm going to just put a tiny little bit of adhesive on the stems of those leaves to stick them down and get them in place. The really great thing about this liquid adhesive is it just allows you to reposition things for a couple of well, not a couple of minutes probably, but at least a minute. I think it stays wet. Although I haven't timed it, I'm not exactly sure, but it's plenty of time to get things placed exactly where you want them. Now I am going to add, or I have added, a little foam square to that top leaf, and that's going to give that area some dimension as well in that little spotlight area. Now I'm going to add some anti-static powder to some of this teal cardstock here, and this is going to be for my sentiment. Now I'm going to use the Thankful for You sentiment from the Hello Fall stamp set. I'm going to stamp that out onto my teal cardstock using some sticky embossing ink. And here you just see I'm adding that same gold embossing powder that I used on the leaves for my sentiment. I'm going to heat that up and melt it. And something I think that is absolutely genius about the Honeybee honey cuts is that they cut out the sentiments for many of the sentiments in many of the stamp sets. And so that is a really easy way to cut out your sentiment. Now I did create a tiny little banner using one of those teal strips of cardstock and a little strip of gold glitter paper. I just fishtailed the ends, and that just creates a tiny little banner that I'm going to add to my card here as well, just as a little extra detail. I'm going to stick those two layers together, and you can just see how that's going to add a little spot for my sentiment there in that way to my little leaf cluster area in my spotlight on my card. So that I'm just getting an idea there of where I want that placed. Now I'm going to take some of my other little leaf die cut pieces and I'm going to add them just below that little bow in my twine up top there. They're just the perfect size for this, I think. And it just brings a little more detail and another little cluster to that area where the bow of the twine is. And then it just kind of creates just a little bit more detail for the card. And you'll just see me adding that one last little leaf in there again with that liquid adhesive from the glue tube, the Honeybee Stamps glue tube. Just going to add a little bit more to that last leaf, get that added. Just working out of frame there a little bit, sorry. And here I'm just going to go ahead and add this in slowly but surely. I'm going to get that in there. And I like how that looks. I think that's just a really sweet little cluster up at the top there. Just going to press that down so that my liquid adhesive adheres once I've got everything placed. But you can see what I mean about this liquid adhesive. It's so forgiving. It does give you just a few, like just a little bit of time to move things around before it really gets stuck. And when it's stuck, it sticks. It's very permanent. So that's great. Now I'm just going to use a little bit more of that liquid adhesive on that little banner, and I use a few little glue dots on the sentiment so that it pops up a tiny little bit. I didn't want to use a great big piece of foam adhesive on the back because there's already dimension on the leaves. So I just wanted to add just a little bit of pop there to that sentiment. And now that's all stuck down there. And I wanted to go ahead and add some gold gems. Now these are from the Hot Tropics gemstones set, and I'm just going to take my craft pick and add a few of these gold gems to add a little bit of bling to my card. I'm going to add 2 up at the top and then 3 to the little bottom leaf cluster area, and my card is going to be finished. I'm really happy with how this card turned out. I love the Hello Fall stamp and honey cut set. I think it's gorgeous. And like I said earlier, I will make sure to leave links in the description box below to all of the products that I used today for this card. And I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got some inspiration. And if you haven't shopped the autumn afternoon release yet, this is part of that new release. And if you haven't seen the new release yet, it is amazing. I mean, amazing. I was so excited to see all of the different parts of this collection, and it is just absolutely stunning. There's so many beautiful pieces, and the team has been releasing just some gorgeous projects on the blog and here on YouTube, and so make sure you check those out. Check out Honeybee Stamps on Instagram and all of the different platforms in social media so that you can find tons of inspiration for the autumn afternoon release. Have an amazing day, friends. It was so great to share this with you today. Hope to see you again here, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.